Hello everyone. This video is covering Module 6, using form tools and creating custom forms. This can be found on page AC 373 in your textbook. Again, I will be covering the review assignment for Module 6, using form tools and creating custom forms. The database that you'll need to follow along with is called supplier.accdb. It was created and modified in Module 5 and will continue to be used for Module 6 and then 7 and 8 as well. So if you need to, please go out and find that on your computer as you follow along in Chapter 5. And I will continue because I have mine on my desktop. The opening paragraph says, Kimberly wants you to create several forms, including a custom form that displays and updates companies and the products they offer. Complete the following steps. So I'm going to open up the database and continue on. So that was step number 1, open the supplier database you worked with in the previous module. Step 2, in the table product table, remove the lookup feature from the supplier ID field and then resize the supplier ID column in the datasheet to its best fit. So I have to do this in design view, so I'm going to right click on table product and go to it in design view. When I click on supplier ID and I go down to the lookup tab, I can tell that in a previous step this has been changed to a lookup. That's the reason that the lookup tab is occupied with information. Otherwise, it would be blank. To remove the lookup feature, which is what they want me to do, I have to be on the lookup tab for the supplier ID field. I go to the very first line that reads display control, and I use the drop-down arrow and I select text box. By doing so, I have removed the lookup feature from the supplier ID field. It then goes on and says, and then resize the supplier ID column in the datasheet to its best fit. So now I must go out to datasheet view, save my changes, and I'm going to resize the column if I had to between supplier ID and product name. I get a line with 2 arrows. I'm going to double click, and that would resize my column if necessary. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I have completed step number 2. Step number 3, edit the relationship between the primary TBL supplier and related TBL product tables to enforce referential integrity and to cascade update related fields. Okay, so if you recall from previous chapters, we have to go to Database Tools and Relationships. I can tell that referential integrity was not enforced because otherwise I would see the one-to-many symbols on this relationship line, and I currently don't. To enforce referential integrity, what I can do is put the tip of my pointer right on that line, right-click, and go to Edit Relationship. Sure enough, enforce referential integrity was not done, so I checked that box, and then the instructions want me to do Cascade Update as well, so I checked that box. I click OK, and I have now enforced referential integrity for this relationship. It goes on to say, create the relationship report. So again, we've done this in a previous case problem, but in this case problem, I go to the ribbon and I click on relation report, and it will automatically create the relation report for me. I'm going to save this, click the Save Diskette, and they want me to call this RPT Relationships for products, all one word. So that's RPT, Relationships for Products. I click OK, and I'm going to say yes. Sometimes I'm going to get some messages that you won't because I actually did some stuff prior to this recording, and so that one just told me to replace what I already had saved there. So no problem. Go ahead and close this. Go ahead and close this. And now under reports, we have that report called RPT Relationships for Products. Okay? Step number 4. use the documenter to document the query company contacts query. So first I got to find that one called QRY company contacts. So it's that one. So just don't open it, but just select it. We're going to go back to the database tools ribbon, and we used the relationships earlier. Now we're going to use database documenter. So I'm going to click on that. In the instructions, it says select all query options. So I want all of these boxes to be checked. So the easiest way to do that is to select all. Okay. Then it goes on and says use the names, data type, and sizes option for fields and the names and fields option for indexes. I get to that by clicking the options button down here at the bottom. And I just need to verify that they're checked, and if they're not, to put the dot next to the two things that they requested. One was up here, include the fields. We wanted to do names, data types, and sizes. So make sure the second one has the radio button zeroed. Okay? Down here, it's names and fields. So again, make sure it's the second one. Click OK, and click OK. Now, what it tells you to do is to print this off, and obviously we don't do any printing in this class. So really, there's nothing for you to do at this point. I'm just going to have to take your word for it that you did this step. So there's no way to save it. There's no way I'm going to have you print it or anything like that. So we're just going to close it and assume that you did that, and I'll get you credit for that. Step 5, use the datasheet tool to create a form based on the table product table. So that means I have to be on the table product, and to create everything new, we always go to create. And it's going to be a form, so I'm going to look in this group here. Well, I don't see anything that says data sheet, but I do have this more forms with a drop-down arrow. I'm going to click that, and sure enough, there's data sheet. So I'm going to click on that, and it creates it for me. There's really nothing for me to do, which is a very easy step. All I have to do now is save it. So I click my diskette, and they want me to call it FRM product datasheet. Okay, click OK, and all I got to do now is close it. So that was easy. I just had to know where to find it. Step 6 is also one that's going to be easy, and again, just need to know where to find it. This one's called multiple items tool. So again, we're going to be doing it for this. Oh, I'm sorry. This time we're going to be doing it for the QRY duplicate product types. So that one right there. So again, don't open it. Just click on it. We're going to go to Create. Again, we're going to go to More Forms. And this time we're going to click on Multiple Items. Again, it creates it for me. All I have to do is click Save. And we're going to call this one FRM product type multiple items. Click OK and close it. And we have already completed steps 1 through 6. Step 7, a little bit more harder. Use the split form tool to create a split form based on the table product table, and then make the following changes. Well, we have to have table product selected. We're going to go to Create, and again, for the third time, we're going to go to More Forms, and this time we're going to pick Split Form. Now, this is kind of interesting because what it does is it not only shows you the table down below, but then the form above it. So we're seeing a split view, which is kind of interesting. But we got some changes to make to this. Step 7A, remove the 2 unit controls from the stacked layout. So I want to select this control that says units/case, hold down my control key, and select the other one next to it. Those are the 2 controls for the units. So it says remove the 2 unit controls from the stacked layout. The way I do that is I right-click now, and I go to Layout, Remove Layout. So it's right-click, Layout, Remove Layout. So they get down toward the bottom. It says reduce the width of the unit's field value box by about half. This is the one that says unit case is known as my label control. This one is my field value box or text box. They want me to reduce it by half the size. So I go to the right edge and I get two arrows. I click and hold down the left side of my mouse, and with the left side of my mouse held down, I can move that over approximately halfway. I'll call that about halfway, and let go. So let me read 7A again. Remove the two unit controls from the stacked layout. Done. Reduce the width of the unit's field value box by about half, and then anchor the two unit controls to the bottom left. So what I do is I click on this one. I hold down my control key and click on this one. I'm going to right click, but instead of going to layout, which we did earlier, I'm going to go down to the bottom where it says anchor. And this one says to anchor it to the bottom left. So I'm going to select bottom left, and I have anchored it to the bottom left. Now, to continue on with 7A, it says depending on the size of your window, the two unit controls may be positioned at the bottom left of the right column. Okay, we're okay there. 7B, remove the four control pairs in the right column from the stacked layout. So very similar to what we did before. We're going to click on one of them, hold down our control key, and with the control key still held down, I'm going to select all of the controls for these three, including the yes/no boxes. I'm going to right click, and again I'm going to go to layout and remove layout. Right click, layout, remove layout. Okay, so it says remove the four control pairs in the right column from the stacked layout. We just did that. And then anchor the group to the bottom right. So now I right click in any one of the controls that is still selected, go to anchor, and it says to the bottom right. So I select bottom right. There we go. It says you may see a dotted border outlining the location of the previously removed controls. This may be automatically selected as well. So I'm not seeing that, so we're okay right there. Step 7C. Remove the product name control pair from the stacked layout. So there we go again. So click, hold down your control key, click, right click, layout, remove layout. That's the third time we've had to do that. Okay, we've removed that. Move them to the top right. So I'm going to take what I call my suction cup, the four arrows. I'm going to click and hold down the left side of my mouse and move them up here to the top right. And then it says, and then anchor them to the top right. So right click, anchor, top right. So step 7 is really having us do two big things here. One is to right click and remove the stack, and then also right click and do anchoring. All right. Step 7D, reduce the width of the product ID and supplier ID field value boxes. Again, that's the one that has the data in it, to a reasonable size. So I'm going to click on one of them. They both will go together, so don't worry about having to click on one or the other. It doesn't matter. Go to the right edge, get the double arrows, and drag that over to a reasonable size. I'll call that a reasonable size. Okay? That's a reasonable size. Finally, step 7E, change the title to product. So instead of TBL product, they want product. So I'm going to click on it. Click between the L and the P. Hit my backspace 3 times to get rid of the TBL. Click outside of it. Okay. And now they want me to save this, all this hard work that we just got done doing, and we're going to call it FRM product split form. And click OK. And then we can close it. Now we're on the most difficult step of this particular case problem. We're going to be creating step number 8. Use figure 6-51, which is on the next page, AC374, and follow steps to create a custom form named Form Suppliers with Products based on the table supplier and table product tables. So I'm going to turn it over to the next page, AC374, and use that guide, that figure, as my guide. So here we go. I'm going to go to Create form design this time. Have nothing but a blank palette, a bunch of dots and lines to help me organize things. First, I have to go to the Form Design Tools Design ribbon, and I have to start adding some of the fields in order to make the form look the way it does. So I go to Add Existing Fields on my ribbon. If you're not seeing that, make sure you're on the Form Design Tools Design ribbon and click Add Existing Fields. These fields are coming from a table, so I want to show all tables, and they're coming from the Table Supplier table. So I'm going to hit the plus sign next to TBL Supplier. And there's all my fields. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, without even really reading the instructions at this point, I'm going to bring the fields over so that it looks roughly like what the figure shows me. So here's how I do that. I'm going to take supplier ID because that's the first field that I see in the left column in my figure. I'm going to click and hold down the left side of my mouse, and I'm going to drag that until I'm on about the 1 inch. I'm going to use this big thick line on the 1 inch mark as my guide, if you will. I'm going to go up to about the third row of dots below. Now don't worry about perfection. Just get it pretty close. Let go, and what comes up are two controls. The one on the left with the dot still behind it is my label control. That's telling the user what's in this box. And then in the white box itself is the field, the actual field coming from the table supplier table, and it will have data in it when we go out to form view. I'm going to continue that with the rest of the fields, so maybe you could do this on your own now that I've shown you how to do it. I'll do one more for you, and of course then I'll continue with mine. But I'm going to click on Company, click, drag that in, go a little bit below the one I just did, the supplier ID, still on the 1 inch mark to have everything kind of lined up. Let go, and I've just brought in Company. I'm going to do the same thing for category. Click on it, click and hold down the left side of my mouse, drag it in, and drop it. Address, click, drag it in. I'm always going about 2 rows of dots below the one above it. Again, don't worry about perfection. We can deal with that later. Address, next one is city. Click and drag it in. I think you're getting the habit of it now. State, drag it in. Zip, drag it in. And notes. So I got to go farther down and get notes and drag it in. Okay, now I can do my second column. Looks like we have phone. For this one, I'm going to go to the 5 inch mark, and I'm going to try to line it up exactly with supplier ID. So about 3 rows of dots down, something like that. Okay. I'm going to go to the next one is first. Contact first. Bring that in. Drop it. Contact last. Drop it. Initial contact. So we're skipping nickname. Drop it. And last. Latest contact. All right. Good job. Good job, everybody. Okay. Now, if you are really, really picky, let me show you some things that you can do. If you want to make sure that all your left edges are lined up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click to the right of supplier ID with my mouse. I'm going to click and hold down the left side of my mouse. And with the left side of my mouse held down, I'm going to draw like a little box, if you will. That will allow me to select all of these controls. Okay? Then up here we have, can't find it. Oh, well, I'm sorry. It's under the Arrange ribbon. That's why I couldn't find it. Form Design Tools Arrange. You have Align. And you can say align all the left edges so that they're perfectly lined up. So click left, and it will do that. And then I can do the same thing here. I can click below it, hold down the left side of my mouse, drag up. This allows me to select multiple items without having to hold down my control key. Select all of those. Align left. So you can, and then if I want to, I can select these. Again, I'm holding down the left side of my mouse and control selecting those 4. And I can say align bottom. so that I'm sure they're all lined up. And I'm not going to worry about doing that, but you can do that for each and every one of these. I'll do one more. Select all of these like this. Align bottom. Again, just to make sure that you have perfection there. I'm not going to worry about the rest of those. You can do those on your own if you'd like. So let's read what we've got so far. Step A, place the fields from the table supplier table at the top of the details section. Delete the contact last name label. So I'm going to click the label, not the text box, the label control, and delete it. Okay. And then it says change the caption for the contact first name label. So I'll click here. I can close this field list now. I don't need that anymore. And I'm going to bring up Form Design Tools, Design, and go to Property Sheet instead. This caption, actually for me it's going to be a little bit easier just to change it here. They want this caption to be change caption of the contact to contact name. So I'm going to get rid of the first, then I'm just clicking there and deleting, and so that it just says contact name. That's step A that's asking me to do that. So we've already done step A. B, move the fields into two columns in the detailed section as shown in figure 6-51, resizing and aligning controls as necessary and increasing the width of the form. So we're pretty well done with B already. We did B right off the bat. But it says resize the form. Let me tell you, you can go out to 6.5 inches on your form. So I went to the right edge here, got that line with 2 arrows, and dragged it over to about 6.5. The reason for that is if you think of a piece of paper, it's 8.5 by 11, with 8.5 being at the top. Access gives you an inch margin on both the right and the left, so we have to subtract 2 from the 8.5. That gives us 6.5 of space to work with. In addition to that, as I look at my figure to go by, company and address look a little bit longer as far as their boxes are concerned because it has a lot more information in it. So I'm going to resize those by clicking on company, going to the right edge of a little square known as the sizing handle. I'm going to click and drag that over to about the 3-inch mark on my ruler up above. Same thing for address. Again, if we don't have them long enough, we can always come back in here and tweak it and make them a little wider if we needed to. So again, I'm not looking for perfection at this point in time. We can always go back and tweak, tweak, tweak as we need to. Okay. Step C, add the title in the form header section. Okay. At this point, the only section I'm seeing is this one that has a little arrow and says detail. I need to add a form header section. The way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to go over here where there's a blank area, just a bunch of dots. I'm going to right click and click on Form Header and Footer. That will add that section called Form Header, which is where I'm going to put my title. Now I need to make this a little bit more space, so I'm going to go right on top of my detail bar. I get a line with 2 arrows yet again. We're used to seeing that. Click and drag down just a little bit more to give myself some room there. To add the title that they're referring to, and it's going to be called Companies with Products, I click this button up here on my Form Design Tools Design ribbon. Again, make sure you're on the right ribbon. And I'm going to click this AA. It's called a label control. It allows me to do titles. So I'm going to click on that. I'm not holding anything down. I just clicked on it. I'm going to put my mouse back into my form, and you can see that that comes with you, the plus with a big A. Click roughly where you think you might want it. I'm going to click about right there. Again, don't worry about perfection. How many times do I have to say that, huh? And then I'm going to type in companies, space, with, space, products. And just click outside of it. Now, it doesn't tell you if you want to get pretty with this, you can click on it. You can go to the Form Design Tools Format ribbon, and you can do things like bold it and change the font size, the typical things that you can do with stuff in other applications as well. Now, it doesn't look like there's enough room to fit everything, so if you go right to the edge, the right edge, you get those double arrows, and you double click, that does what's called an auto fit, and it will automatically fit the box so that everything fits perfectly. Okay, that is step C. Step D, make sure the form's record source property is set to table supplier, and then add a combo box in the form header section to find company field values. Okay, so what we want to do is make sure you click on the bar that says form header. Okay, then we're going to go to the Form Design Tools Design ribbon, and we're looking for this thing called a combo box. So if you go across these, they have tooltips that will tell you, and if we get over to this one, it says combo box. That's what we want to use. So again, I'm just going to click on it. I'm not going to hold anything down. Just click on it to select it. Put your mouse back into your form header section. I'm going to put it at about the 3.5 inch on my ruler right there. I'm going to click, and a wizard comes up. And we like wizards because they walk us step by step through the process. I'm going to choose the top option. I want the combo box to get the values from another table or query because we already have this information typed somewhere else. I don't want to have to retype it again. So we're going to leave the option right as it is. Click Next. This is telling me that it's going to come from, let me read this again. Make sure the form's record source property is set to table supplier, then add a combo box. And we're going to select, okay, so we're using the table supplier table. So select that by clicking on it. Click Next. It says to include the company. So I'm going to double click on company to throw it over to the right, and supplier ID. This one I'll click on it and use the right arrow. So either way works. Okay. We're going to click Next. We're just following the steps here. They don't specify anything in the instructions about sorting, so I'm going to click Next. Here it says to definitely do the hide key column, so we're going to keep that checked. We're going to click Next. It doesn't tell me to do anything here, so we'll just go ahead and click Next. And here they want me to call it company name, company space name. Okay, click Finish. And if you see, I moved it too far because it's taking my label and putting it over here. So what I'm going to do is put my pointer right on top of this box that currently says Unbound. Get those 4 arrows, and I'm going to click and drag that to the right a little bit so that the label is not on top of my title. All right, now I'm going to go take a look at what's happened so far. So I'm going to go to View, Form View, and here we go. There it is. Now if you drop this arrow down, there's all my company names. Isn't that cool? All right, the only problem is it's not big enough to see my company names. So I'm going to go back to Design View, and this is what a lot of creating forms and reports is all about. It's just kind of customizing them a little bit. So I'm going to resize this box to come all the way out to my right edge. See if that did it. I go back to Form View, and when the user clicks this down now, okay, they can see all of the entire company name. All right, we are doing great. I'm going to go back to Design View. Perfect. Okay, that was step D. That was a big step. Okay, step E. Add a subform based on the table product table. Include only the fields shown in Figure 6-51. Link with supplier ID. Name the subform FRM partial product subform. Delete the subform label. Resize the columns in the subform to their best fit, and resize and position the subform. Wow. Okay. We're going to scroll down until we see a blank area underneath Notes. That is where we're going to put the subform subreport. If you look at above the figure, in the figure, which we're using as our guide, we're doing that bottom box there that says product ID, product name, price, and unit case. That is my subform. So back up we go again to the Form Design Tools ribbon. And this time I'm looking for a box up here that says Subform Subreport. And you may not see it, so there's a little button right here called More. It's a little line with an arrow pointing down. If you click on that, if you look right there, the third one from the right on the bottom row, I have Subform Subreport. Again, I'm just clicking on it to select it. I'm not dragging it in, so just click on it. Let's come down here and about on the 3-inch mark, 4 inch on my left ruler and 4 on, so 4 and 4. Now let's do 4 and 3. So 3 on my top ruler, 4 on my left ruler, right there where they intersect, I'm going to click. Again, I can move this later. That's not a problem. Okay. This information is coming from an existing table. It's going to be coming from the product table. So make sure on the very first step of our wizard we use existing tables and queries and click Next. Up here where it says Tables and Queries, we're looking for our table called Product. So scroll all the way up to the top and there's Table Product. And the only fields we should include are the ones that we see above in our figure 6-51. So that's product ID, that's product name, price, and units. Whoops, I brought one. See, now I brought one over I shouldn't have, so I'm going to bring it back, supplier ID, and bring units over. Just those 4. I'm going to click Next. Here they're just saying this is how the 2 tables, the product and the supplier, are related. It's table supplier, and in the instructions it specifies link with supplier ID. Well, this was already done for me, so there's nothing I have to do here except just kind of verify. Click Next. They want me to call this FRM partial product subform. And click Finish. Okay, now got a couple of issues. One is it went way beyond my 6.5 that I told you earlier I should be doing. So I'm going to have to move this. So I'm going to go right on the edge of my subform. Right on the top edge I get 4 arrows, my suction cup. I'm going to click and drag that further over to like right there. And then I'm going to use my sizing handle to bring that over to 6.5 on my ruler, maybe even a little less. Then I also have to resize my form. So I'm going to go to the right edge here. I had to scroll over until I saw the edge here. Click and drag that back to 6.5. Again, that's kind of the rules of the game. You don't want to go any further than 6.5. And that's what they said in the instructions. Move it if you have to. Okay, so let's reread the instructions. All right, add a subform based on the table product table. Include only the fields shown in figure 6-51. Link with supplier ID. Name the subform partial product subform. Delete the subform label. That's this thing right here. Just click on it. It says form partial products. Just hit delete to get rid of that label. Resize the columns in the subform to their best fit, and then resize and position the subform. Okay, the best way for me to do this, I know there's other ways to do this, and the book might have other ways for you to do this, but I like to go out to View, Form View, and to resize my columns in my subform, I do it right here. So I'm going to double-click, 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 and double-click. Now, that's for record 1 of 20. But I go through each one of my records because some of them are longer than others, and so I adjust it as I need to. So I just go through all my records. There's 2. I'll resize product name again. There we go. I'll go to 3. Looks like my price needs to be expanded. Okay. I'll go to 4. Again, product name yet again. 5's okay. 6 is okay. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, 14, again, product name. We're almost there. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, we're fine. All right, let's go back to design view. Okay, now, perhaps the hardest step of them all, and I got to be honest with you, if it doesn't work for me right away, I probably will stop this video and then record a second video that will be covering this step only, because I've already recorded this video once and I got to this step and I screwed up, and so I re-recorded the entire thing again, and I'm not going to do that this time. Let's just pray it works so that I don't have that issue. But if it doesn't work, I'm going to stop this video so that you have all the steps up to this point, and then I'll resume with the other one as soon as I practice. That's what you have to do sometimes. Okay, so we think we've got step C done, or E done, E. Step F is the tough one for me. Add a calculated control that displays the number of products displayed in the subform. Set the calculated controls tab stop property to no and the control tip text property to calculated number of products. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to scroll down until I see form footer. I need a little room to work with in my form footer section, so I'm going to click at the bottom of form footer and I'm going to drag down. Because in the form footer section, I am going to create a control that is going to count the number of product names. Okay? So, let me take care of this for you. This is a little bit harder. I got to be perfectly honest with you. So what I'm going to do is I'm looking at my notes here just to make sure that I cover this exactly. This is the toughest thing. So if you want to follow along in your book, this is found on page AC 356. And it goes on. So it's telling me on page 357, okay, so that I should go click the form footer section bar, and I resized it. I did step number 2 on page AC 357. Then I'm going to use the text box, step number 3. This is your text box up here on your Form Design Tools Design Ribbon. It's called a text box. It's the AB with a line. I'm going to click on that and then click in my form footer section. Anywhere you want, doesn't matter. Okay? And it has text and a number. Mine says 18, yours could be any number, it doesn't matter. And then unbound. Okay? Now, what I want to do is I want to click where it says unbound. And in there, I am going to go and type equals count, open parenthesis, square bracket. We're using the function called count, and I want it to count a particular field. And as we know, in all calculated fields, you must contain them within square brackets. And the field that I want them to count is the field called, I believe the field is called company name. So I'm going to type company name, no space, just company name, close my square bracket, close my parenthesis, and then I'm going to click outside of it. Now let me scroll up and make sure it's product name, my fault. So let's change that to product name. Okay. Okay, I'm going to stop this because right now it's not working for me. Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. And I want to change. I'm panicking. So I'm going to change this to product name. Okay, I want this to be perfect for you guys so that it helps you on your homework. So count, open parenthesis, square bracket, product name. Okay. Now I did put it in the wrong place. I put it in the form footer for the entire form. I want it in the form footer for my subform. So I'm going to select this and do right-click cut, and then right-click in my form footer for my subform and do paste. You probably all did it correctly. Okay, I'm going to stop this because it's not working and I don't want to have to re-record everything else. Everything up to this point is perfect. So I'll stop this and then I'll record a second video that will cover just this area. Okay? So I'm going to stop my recording and look for part 2. Thank you.